what you need to know about doing probate mobile home deals. Hey guys, it's Brad from probatehouseguy.com. Thanks for checking out this video. So you want to do a mobile home or a manufactured home deal, and it's a probate deal. These can get really messy. We've done a lot of them, and I've got a lot of firsthand experience with these things. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a checklist here that you need to go over. First of all, the person you're talking to. So this is a probate inheritance deal. Have they gotten their probate letters yet? Have they filed for probate yet? Yes or no? If they have filed for probate yet, do they have their letters of administration or their letters testamentary? If they're the executor, if there was a will, you would get letters testamentary. If you do an administration, then you get letters of administration. Do they have the letters yet? Yes. Great. If they don't, are they going to get them soon? You know, where are they in that process? Because that can take time. Okay. Second of all, so they have a mobile home or a manufactured home. Is it in a park or is it on land? If it's in a park, you can buy mobile homes in parks, but just understand that a lot of mobile home parks basically have their rules set up where only owner occupants are allowed to basically rent the property out. And what that basically does is it essentially forces someone to sell that mobile home to the mobile home park, because in many cases it's cost prohibitive for the people to move the mobile home. I mean, it's really expensive to move a mobile home. I mean, it's $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 depending on how far you're going and blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of factors in there, but it can be very expensive to move a mobile home. So in many cases, it basically leaves them no choice but essentially sell the mobile home to the mobile home park, in which case they're going to lowball the crap out of them. And you might get calls from you as an investor asking them to buy the house. And if it's in a park, you need to make sure you read the rules. Now, if you can lease it out, then you could probably buy it, sort of own it, and lease it out to somebody else. Now, understand too that these are depreciating assets, right? So I would be leery of overpaying for a mobile home because it is going to depreciate. Now, they can be tremendous cash cows. Also understand there's still going to be lot rent on the park that it's in. You're going to have to pay lot rent to whoever the owner of the park is. So make sure you take that into account when you're running your numbers. Figure out how much lot rent is. There have been instances where we asked about lot rent, and there's some communities we looked at, the lot rent was like over $1,000 a month. Wait, what? That's crazy talk. So now there are some ways around sort of these rules where you could do a seller financing sort of scenario, where you would basically file a lien against the mobile home. You transfer title to their name, and then you could repossess it if they defaulted. But I would be very careful and make sure that's a really good deal if you're getting into that. You don't want to get into a bad deal and basically lose some money, right? Nobody wants to lose money. Okay. Secondly, so if it's on land, great. On land. I love mobile manufactured homes on land. They're a great source of affordable housing, especially when you're in rural areas. People can afford these things. It's a great way to get sort of some acreage for a cheaper price. And really, the stigma behind mobile homes, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff that's been built really in the last probably 20 to 25 years, a lot of these newer units are actually pretty decent houses. Now, they're not as good as a sticks and bricks house, but to be honest, some of these tract homes that these sticks and bricks builders build are crap too. So it's a crapshoot, right? You're gonna have to look at it, but if it's been maintained and taken care of, a lot of times they're pretty decent properties. Now, the one thing you need to look out for is a lot of these older ones had particle board subfloor. I'm not talking about like OSB. I'm talking about like the particle board crap that they build like IKEA cabinets out of. The subfloor is made out of that, and when that stuff gets wet, it swells and it sags, and it basically is ruined. So if there's any water damage inside the unit and the subfloor has gotten wet, you can consider it ruined, like it's trashed, right? So make sure you're paying attention to that. So if it's on land, that's great. Now, if it's on land, you need to check to see, is it permanently attached to land? Is it on a permanent foundation? If it's on a permanent foundation, that's great. Now, if you try to go to sell this place, believe it or not, you can, FHA and VA will finance mobile or manufactured homes on land. They have to be attached to the land. The titles need to be retired. So that's one thing you got to check for. You need to know whether the titles have been retired. That's basically where the owner sort of surrenders, because there's a title to the mobile home or the manufactured home, and then there's a title to the land. And when you permanently affix it, you should retire the titles. Now, in the state of Georgia, that process was not created. The official process with the T234 and all that was not created until 2004. So if you have a pre-2004 mobile home, some people will tell you that, yeah, we retired the title, but when in fact they didn't actually go through the process. Now, this is a different conversation for a different day. I'm actually trying to work with some people in Georgia General Assembly with some of the title insurance companies to create an alternative process for these pre-2004s, because a lot of times you come to closing and they'll say, yeah, we can't find a T234 on file for this mobile home that was, let's say it's a 1998 model on land. Well, no kidding, there's no T234, because in 1998, when that owner set that mobile home on site and attached it to the land, the T234 didn't exist. So how can you expect them to have a T234 filed with the state when that didn't come about until, 6 years later afterwards? So a lot of these people basically threw their titles in the trash. They went to the tax commissioner and they basically filed a homestead exemption and got one tax bill. But when in reality, they didn't actually technically retire the titles per se, but when they did it, there was not a retirement process from a formal standpoint. Now there is. So if it's a post-2004 unit, there is a process. They have to do a T234 form. They have to fill this out, surrender the titles to the state, all that stuff. Now, once that's done, this property is considered an improvement on the real estate. Just like if you built a sticks and bricks house, it's an improvement on the real estate, in which case it's worth more money. Also, you're going to, if it is a mobile manufactured home, you're going to need to get an engineer certification on the foundation if you're trying to get it financeable through FHA and VA. There's some out-of-state companies that do it. We've used a company out of Texas. There's also a local company here in Georgia that does mobile home certifications. You're going to have to get an engineer to come out and certify that, and they'll verify that there's adequate longitudinal and lateral bracing. There's adequate tie downs in the event of a storm that's adequately tied down. And they'll also inspect sort of the block work or the concrete work to ensure that it meets specifications. And if it does in fact meet those specifications, then they will issue an engineer certification. Typically cost you $400 or $500 to get this letter. And once that's done, then a lot of times this is financeable. Also, there's a stipulation with an FHA financing that this mobile home cannot have been moved. So basically, it's in the original spot that it was. So if it's in the original spot, you have an engineered certification, and the titles are retired, and it's older than 1976, then many times FHA will insure a mortgage on this property. Also, here's a little known fact. If there are any decks, they cannot be attached to the structure. They have to be freestanding decks. Now, they can butt right up against the place, but they have to be freestanding decks. They can't be attached to the structure. So keep that in mind also, because the engineer may point that out, or a home inspector may point that out, or the FHA appraiser inspector may point that out. So make sure. It's okay if it has a roof on it. Like if they've added a roof, obviously you have to attach the roof, but like the deck itself, I think it's a silly rule, because if the roof's attached but the deck's not attached, okay, but that's just the way the rules are written, and that's the way they follow them. So, okay. So again, if it's on a land, like I said, if the title's been retired, you've got an engineer certification on it, it's never been moved, it's in the original place that it ever was. And when they do the inspection, they're also going to make sure it's not movable, right? The axles and the wheels have to have been removed from the unit, and the tongue has to be removed from the front of it. If all that checks all those boxes, then you can actually sell this thing on permanent financing, like FHA or VA will finance it. Some conventional lenders will do it as well. Not all of them will, but some of them will. So make sure you check with the potential buyer's lender about that. But if you can do that, then it's great. Another thing, I love owner financing mobile homes. I just bought one last week that we're going to be selling on owner financing. It's a little bit of a fixer. I'm not even going to actually bother fixing it up. It's in good enough shape someone can move in. It needs new floors. It needs a coat of paint. It needs a new deck out back. It's kind of seen its better days. But overall, someone can move in it tomorrow, and they could live in it. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sell it on seller financing. So I'm going to be the bank, and I'm going to charge them a little bit higher interest rate than what they might get if they went and got an FHA loan. So for instance, they might go get an FHA loan and get, right now it's like 5%. I'm going to charge them like 10%. So it's double that. But their payment on this particular mobile home is still going to be equivalent or less than what it would cost them to rent that same place. So to them, to the buyer, it doesn't really matter. Like, I'm going to pay that much to rent it anyway, so I'll just buy it from you. What does that mean for me? Well, that means I'm getting a return on my money. I'm getting interest over time, compounding interest. And typically I'm buying it for less than what I'm selling it for. So for instance, maybe I'm buying it for $50,000. I'm going to sell it on seller financing for like $80,000. So I've got a little bit of difference, and they call it note equity. And basically that compounds, that makes my return on investment even larger. So I love to own or finance mobile homes. It's great because, again, it's hard to get financing. There's a lot of hoops you have to jump through to get financing on it. But again, if you can get traditional financing, it does improve the value that much more of the unit. But if you can't, consider owner financing. If you want to talk to me about some of my other owner financing strategies on mobile homes, I've got some more things I can share with you to sound pretty cool. But anyways, if you're dealing with a probate inherited mobile home, those are the things you're going to want to look into. Also, like I mentioned with the titles, were the titles to the mobile home in the deceased name? If they are, then the administrator of the estate can just sign on behalf of the estate, sign the titles over to you at closing, and they can deed the property to you. If it's not, this is where these deals get messy, is sometimes you're going to have to go back in time, and maybe they didn't transfer title to the mobile home properly, but the land was transferred. Well, then you're going to have to track down a previous owner. Hopefully they're still alive. They could do a lost title request with the state, get new titles, sign them over to you or sign them over to whatever. You're going to need to have a bill of sale from that too. And if all of that takes place, then you're good, right? But in some cases, they're really messy. You're going to have to get what's called a title bond. And a title bond can be very expensive. It can be anywhere from like $700 to $1,500 to get a title bond. And essentially that's like an insurance company saying, hey, we know that someone could have claim to this title. We're willing to sort of insure this up to X amount of money for a fee today, right? All they're doing is banking on the fact that no one ever comes back to claim it. They issue a title bond, and then the state will give you new titles in your name, because basically if someone comes back in the future and says, no, this mobile home belongs to me, then the title bond company will pay out the bond and reimburse that person for any monies or whatever. So that can get messy. So I'm going to do some more videos about this. We've done a lot of these deals. They can be very lucrative. They can also be a big, giant pain in the butt, and they take a lot longer than normal. So make sure you understand that. So thanks again for checking out this video. Again, I'm Brad with ProbateHouseGuy.com. I hope this helps you out. If you want to chat with me, go to Probate House Guy. You can fill out the form or pick up the number and call me. Be happy to talk to you about this. Maybe we can do some deals together. So thanks again. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.